Here's your wrestling news for January 12th, 2023. And over the last 24 hours, several websites reported about WWE being sold to the Saudi Arabia Public Investment Fund. However, there's been a shocking update. Ariel Helwani of BT Sport was the first to report that despite claims to the contrary, WWE has not been sold to Saudi Arabia yet, nor have they been sold to any other entity. Helwani added in his tweet that right now, WWE is still exploring all options, and his report was later backed up by Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics. Cassidy Haynes of Bodyslam.net, one of the first names to report about the potential sale, later clarified that a sale to the Saudi fund hasn't gone through yet, as WWE must provide notice to shareholders and other parties. Given that WWE is publicly traded, there are certain legal proceedings that they must go through first, which is interesting as one of the reported plans from the Saudi Arabia fund is to turn the company private if they become the new owners. Haynes later stated that while the sale isn't official yet, it is likely to happen, saying that the purchase of WWE is there in principle. So what is the Public Investment Fund and why do they have such an interest in WWE? Well, the PIF was founded back in the 1970s by the Saudi government at the time and is controlled by the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who serves as its chairman. Bin Salman has been the de facto ruler of the nation since 2015, and it is his Saudi 2030 Vision project that has resulted in WWE and the nation's decade-long deal to host shows. One of the biggest plans for the Public Investment Fund is to make their mark in the world of Western sports, which is why in addition to WWE, you see high-profile boxing matches in the country, including Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Usyk last August. Golf is also a part of the fund's plan, as they have set up LIV, a counter-brand to the PGA Golf Tour, and has been able to win over some huge names in the world of professional golf. Most recently, soccer star Cristiano Ronaldo has signed with the Saudi Arabian club Al Nassr on a 2.5-year contract with a hefty $75 million per year deal. It's not just individual players that are making Saudi money, as the Public Investment Fund are also the majority shareholders in Newcastle United, though the fund doesn't directly run the team. Instead, the PIF has hired a team to run Newcastle to be as successful and profitable as it can be, which may be an indicator as to how the Saudis will run WWE if this deal goes through. If you know about WWE's Saudi deal, you'll know that the higher-ups in the nation aren't exactly the biggest wrestling fans. As for the greatest Royal Rumble in 2018, names like Yokozuna and the Ultimate Warrior were requested, legends who had been dead for years by the time of the show. This may even be what enticed Vince McMahon to return as quickly as he did, as there's a belief that if any of the potential buyers will be open to McMahon returning to creative, it's the Saudi fund, who may not be aware of the more recent booking by Triple H or the reception McMahon's booking in his most recent years has received from fans. So what does all this mean for the future of WWE? It's impossible to say, but an optimistic view is that nothing will change on screen. If the fund is going to operate like they do with Newcastle, then WWE's day-to-day team should remain unchanged. After all, if the Saudis are planning on buying WWE, a massively profitable company with the intent that it will make them more money, then the last thing they'll want to do is make sweeping changes. That's an optimistic view of the future, though a more pessimistic view is that the purchase will surely result in changes, possibly to WWE's women's division. Sure, WWE has made strides in the treatment of women at Saudi events, but that could all change if the PIF are the ones pulling the strings. Let's not forget that during the Greatest Royal Rumble event, a commercial for WWE aired and featured Carmella in her ring attire, which prompted the following statement from the Saudi Sports Authority. The General Sports Authority would like to apologize to the viewers and attendees of the WWE event that took place in Jeddah over the indecent scene involving women that appeared as an ad before a segment. The authority has made sure to ban showing of any segment that involves women wrestling or any scenes related to it and stipulated that to the company WWE. Saudi Arabia is known around the world for their restrictive laws regarding women, and if the Public Investment Fund wanted to change how WWE treats names like Asuka, Alexa Bliss, Becky Lynch, or Charlotte Flair, then there wouldn't be anybody above them to stop them. WWE's share price has seen a serious uptake with reports of a sale, reaching the highest it's been in nearly 4 years. That stock price dramatically fell when TMZ reported that the purchase by the Saudis was not happening, as the share price fell over $2 from $90.26 to $88.24 before closing the day at $88.97. Some have seen this as a sign that investors were pumping the stock for sale, as they are confident the Saudi purchase will happen, which if it does, will result in a huge payout to them if the company goes private. Saudi Arabia still seems likely to buy WWE, but for now, the company remains open to offers, and a new name has entered as a potential buyer. On a recent episode of the Buzzcast podcast, Matt Bellani discussed the sale and mentioned that Endeavor's name has been coming up as a potential buyer. Now, Endeavor is currently the owners of the UFC, but reports of interest in WWE come at a very interesting time for the fighting brand. After being filmed slapping his wife, UFC president Dana White is in serious hot water right now, and some believe that an exit from the promotion is the only course of action. If not, then it's not outside the realm of possibility for Endeavor to walk away from UFC entirely, especially if they have a brand new acquisition to their name, WWE. The issue with this is that, as Bellani pointed out, that for as popular as WWE is, it's still considered by many as a second-tier property and doesn't have the same appeal as UFC. Bellani stated that there are advertisers who simply will not advertise for WWE, saying this is like when UFC began, and that radioactivity, as Bellani put it, would be something that Endeavor would have to take into account. Endeavor could be the next purchasers of WWE, but perhaps the company is looking for a different kind of boss, one more familiar with the company's inner workings. This boss would have to be popular with the talent and crew, an electrifying people's champion, if you will. PW Insider reports that the possibility of The Rock purchasing the WWE has been addressed, and while the Brahma Bull is wealthy, the move would not be a smart one for the company or for him. In fact, buying WWE would likely be a huge loss for The Rock, whose personal wealth likely wouldn't be close to what WWE are seeking, so he would need a lot of partners and financing just to make a purchase a possibility. In addition to that, WWE's majority of revenue comes from the company's TV rights, and if the market changes dramatically and the partners change what they are willing to pay for WWE, then the company's value also changes. We are living in a time when TV is changing dramatically, with audiences turning to subscription services such as Netflix and Amazon Prime Video more and more each year. It'll cost billions for any company to buy WWE, and with The Rock not already producing content, as opposed to the likes of Comcast or Fox, it would simply not make sense for him to buy. Sure, the image of the Great One sat behind the desk at WWE's biggest office would make for a cool image, but with the XFL premiering next month and a rumored in-ring return, the last thing Rock needs is another major venture. At this time, Vince McMahon is still on the hunt for an entity to purchase WWE, but the executive chairman is in some hot water of his own. It was last week that McMahon was reinstated to the board of directors, bringing former co-presidents Michelle Wilson and George Barrios with him. His return marked the departure of Joe Ellen Lyons Dillon, Jeffrey R. Speed, and Alan M. Wexler, and now McMahon is chairman again, following the stunning resignation of his daughter Stephanie. Bloomberg Law now reports that McMahon is now facing investor litigation over claims that he pushed aside the board to illegally install himself as chairman, with claims that he forced his position onto the board. A shareholder is suing McMahon in Delaware's Chancery Court, and McMahon is accused of using his 81% voting control to remove 3 board members, replace them with loyalists, and push through bylaw changes that would impose his will on the board and WWE. The suit also claims that McMahon timed his return so that he could seize control of WWE's upcoming negotiation rights and essentially held the company hostage by threatening to hold support for any deal reached without his participation. The lawsuit further states that the move to take complete personal control over any major corporate decision by adding his cronies to the board violates Delaware law, and WWE hasn't commented on the matter at this time. Vince McMahon is a fighter, we've seen that for decades, and we've seen it in full over the last couple of weeks. But after fighting to regain control of WWE, McMahon will now battle to keep his role as head of the company. As we mentioned earlier, the reports that WWE could be bought by the Saudi Public Investment Fund have not gone down well with the superstars, with one telling Fightful they're done if it happens. During a Fightful livestream, Sean Ross Sapp added that he's heard from multiple talent who are considering leaving WWE if the promotion is sold to Saudi Arabia, and said that he is 100% sure these wrestlers would go ahead with this threat. For years, Jim Ross served as WWE's head of talent relations, and during the latest Grilling JR, the AEW commentator hit out at talent threatening not to work with WWE based on the owners. It's going to be interesting days ahead for them, and I'm sure that the guys that work there are wondering what the hell's going on. My advice to them is to just do your job. Come to work on time, don't be a problem child, don't be a baby, be willing to go along with things to see how it's going to work out, and that's kind of where I see that whole scenario coming. We should clarify that while many sites did report a sale had happened, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful clarified that he had not heard any confirmation of a sale, and said that many parts of the reports of a sale did not add up. More specifically, Sapp questioned how nobody on the writing team or the production team had heard of a sale, and zero talent that spoke to Fightful said they had heard confirmation of a sale. There also hadn't been any briefing or statement internally confirming a sale, and that no talent had asked for the release at this time. The roster weren't lining up to leave, but one superstar, who wished to remain anonymous, said that they will be done with WWE if a Saudi sale happens. This is a very interesting time to be a WWE fan, as the drama backstage is eclipsing what we're seeing on TV, and it remains to be seen if anyone threatening to walk out will do just that if the Saudi Public Investment Fund take over. So far, no talent has gone public and said they plan to leave WWE over the rumored Saudi Arabia deal, but NXT is missing one of its on-screen personalities. On Twitter, Sadhu Shah announced that he is finished with WWE and said that it was an incredible experience to work with some of the most talented people he's ever met. Shah wasn't a wrestler for WWE, but was the announcer for NXT Level Up, and before coming to WWE, had worked for Fox 5 News in Atlanta. We should stress that there is no evidence that Shah's departure stems from the reports of a WWE sale to the Saudis, but now the former NXT Level Up announcer will be looking for new work outside the promotion. Even before the reports of the Saudi Public Investment Fund purchase, there were concerns among talent who are fearing that their jobs are now at stake. When WWE had their mass releases from 2020 to 2022, many suggested that the company was trying to be more profitable and therefore appeal to more potential buyers. It was back in October that Bray Wyatt returned to WWE, but given the hostility with Vince McMahon that was a factor in his release, some fans fear his days with WWE may be numbered. When one fan tweeted that they fear losing Wyatt again and fear that he'll be cut from WWE, Bray didn't reply with words, but instead did drop a like on the tweet instead in a cryptic response by the superstar. Wyatt has been prominently featured since his return to WWE, and in the midst of his Uncle Howdy story, it would be baffling for WWE to cut him, but if the past year has taught us anything, it's to expect the unexpected in WWE. With Stephanie McMahon resigning as CEO and chairperson, and her father taking the latter role, McMahon drama is in full effect, but where is Shane McMahon in all this? It's hard to think that it was less than a year ago that McMahon made his return to WWE, but Shane's time was cut short following his actions at the 2022 Royal Rumble. Shane, who was part of the booking team, was only focused on his spots and trying to make himself look good, and we now know more about his status with WWE. In an SEC filing, WWE disclosed that Shane was retained by the company as an independent contract with a salary of $828,000 for 2022. Shane being listed as an independent contractor confirms that he had no other official titles backstage and was merely being brought back to be a WWE superstar and not for any office role like his sister. After Shane's firing, Vince McMahon reportedly said that as long as he's in charge, his son will never get a pop from the crowd, and while his retirement led to rumors of Shane's return, that looks less likely than ever now that Daddy is back in charge. But what do you think of this truly wild time in the world of WWE? Should WWE sell to the Saudis? Are you on the side of talent threatening to walk? Will Vince McMahon's second era end as sudden as it began because of this lawsuit? There's a ton of questions left to be answered, and let us know what you think and who should take over WWE in the comments below.